Good evening, everyone. And I know this is the last session. This is the one, I think so, or one before the last session, holding between the dinner and us. But I think so. We had a very good day where we had learned about a lot of cloud and other things. And I myself come with a decade of experience, starting various cloud practices, working on various hyperscalers, working on single and multi-cloud. And over a decade, I've seen that the question from why cloud. Should I go to cloud? To today you have heard why not cloud, right? I mean, like, if you got into single cloud, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, cloud on the edge, and other things as such. So while this is happening, right? So most corporates, or most of you have this in mind, right? When you all would have started, you would have got into a mode wherein you would have started either because someone else or a peer of yours have started, or you had taken the right decision, or any company would have done because they wanted to be the trendsetters. But after a decade or 8 years, which you're seeing now, right, we're getting into a mode where there's a thought which is coming in. Well, we have heard this lockdown, but there's also a thought which keeps coming. Hey, I've moved there. I'm on a single cloud. I'm on. The thought which comes to most companies or the CXOs is, I've got this far. I might be into a mode where I'm getting into a lock-in. So let's try to figure out. We've got a very good panel, and I'm sure hopefully this session is going to be worthwhile, which will sort of summarize what exactly we are today. Is vendor locking really real? And even if someone has gone in a path based on their convenience or based on someone's convenience, right? How do you move out of it? So this is what we are trying to achieve. And I've got a good experienced crowd. So rather than the theoretical discussion, I think so we'll try and see if we can have a good amount of experience coming in. On one side, I have a provider, Mr. Shailesh, who actually gives solutions on the hyperscalers and other aspects. And on the other side, I have got a set of colleagues on the panel who are like day in, day out experts who actually have seen it done there. And if in case there's something which is also encountered, they will share their experience. So without much ado, I'm going to start this. Okay, so this question is trying to understand the multi and hybrid cloud. So what does multi and hybrid cloud mean to you and your business? So we'll start off with the lady on the left. Sukanya. So she comes with a great technology experience. So if you can just talk about how does multi and hybrid cloud mean to you and your business.
Thank you, Moin. And as you said, we are between dinner and the team here today. So I'll keep my answers short. Multi-cloud and hybrid cloud to me means the power of choice. Right? It's important when we are in a highly regulated industry like insurance, that we have our data secure, we have the compliance taken care of. So it's basically the architectural choice that I get, which is what multi and hybrid cloud give me.
So it's the power of choice. Thank you. So next, same question to a different audience. Shobhana, I know you've got various business units. And for you, what does it mean by a multi and hybrid cloud?
I agree a lot with what Sukanya just said. I think hybrid and multi-cloud gives you the options to pick up the best choice for your business needs. So every business has diverse needs. So depending on the needs of the business, depending on parameters that the business wants, then you can choose between the best option at the best cost. So I think multi and hybrid cloud definitely is something that adds a lot of value to the business as far as we are concerned.
Thank you. So next I'll go to Mr. Avadhut. So what is your thought about multi and hybrid cloud? Can you also please tell the industry which you come from so that...
Good evening everyone. I'm Avadhut Parab, coming from Parle, Agro, which is FMCG. I think we were used to the approach of best of breed solution always, and which was before a cloud era, and I think that's something, its other name is multi-cloud. So when we look at multi-cloud, we just look out, is this the best one for us to serve the purpose or they meet the intent?
Thank you. So let's go with the rapid round. So this is actually set up a stage as what each one was seen, right? So we'll go with first, which is a single cloud versus multi-cloud, right? So Sukanya, what is your choice? Is it a single cloud or a multi-cloud?
I will definitely go for multi-cloud option, for sure, with the hybrid option as well, because like I said, we need to keep some of our data with ourselves for compliance reasons.
Okay, thank you. Shobhana?
Yeah, multi and hybrid cloud for me as well.
Okay, thank you. Shailesh? I know your answer, but yeah.
Well, multi-cloud is definitely the way forward, especially for enterprises who are looking for next stage of growth and innovation.
Thank you. So Sanjeev?
I think multi-cloud.
Avadhut, is it same?
No, I think it's a strategy. It's not just a choice. You have to make it situational and what best suit you. So it can be both.
Good, okay. So at least we have got one panel who says it's going to be situation based. Okay, so next question is more on whether agility versus innovation. By agility I mean saying that if you want to start something nimble and start getting started, was a long play where you innovate and do something. So Sukanya, your thoughts on that?
So I would say agility is required for innovation, right? Because with cloud, what we get is the option create and destroy as and when we want. With just a click of a button, whatever we've created, right? It could be a huge virtual machine. Over a minute, I could let go, I could fail fast, like everybody else has spoke. So I think it's both, which is enabled by the power of cloud.
Do you have to choose one?
Well, I would choose definitely long-term innovation at this point, because while being agile is definitely important, if we do not have the right architectural choices made, it could cost us heavily in terms of security and stuff. So definitely the long term.
Okay. Shobhana?
Yeah, definitely innovation, because I think that adds business value. Agility, I think, is a mechanism to achieve innovation, and there could be situations where the innovation does not need agility, because there could be situations where you would need to go slow on few things. So for me, innovation is definite must, and agility could be a mechanism to achieve.
Shailesh?
I tend to agree. Innovation really is a key reason why cloud deployments happen, and from a business perspective, innovation drives those changes. Agility is important. However, if I were to pick, innovation certainly would be in the front.
Thank you. Mr. Avadhut?
Both are equally poised. Let me answer it in a different way. We being a, let's say, research-based manufacturing distribution company, when it comes to growth side, I would look at agility, but when it comes to operation excellence, I would prefer innovation.
Sanjeev?
Moin, I would say I think both are important again. Innovation would certainly require agility, right? If we are talking about the use cases that we are currently running, right, on top of AI, ML, real-time use cases that we want to drive, certainly it requires real-time pumping of data and inferencing of maybe decisions or outputs, right? So innovation and agility, right, both are required.
Right, okay. So thanks for that. So I'll get to the next set of questions, which is more to get in and understand whether vendor lock-in is really there. Is it real? So question to you, Sanjeev, is vendor lock-in, is it real? Assume that you've gone to a cloud, right? And you need to do a switch. Is it advisable? And if you have to do it, how long does it take?
Good question. I think let me take it this way. So Vodafone Idea is the first telco to to go on AWS cloud platform, right? We have built this big data advanced analytics cloud analytics platform, right? So this is something that we have started as a platform where we can go on pumping the use cases, right, function wise, so that we are talking about agility, so that quickly we are able to push the use cases on top of this platform. The ROI goes on, so certainly there is a lot of cost which is involved, right? And that's why we certainly look at the ROI that we can generate. The question, answer to your question is, the vendor lock-in is important or not? Vendor lock-in is important, but before going there, it is also important to understand the use cases that we want to drive. What kind of value we want to drive. And it is important to understand cloud providers and then check the features they are offering, right? Because once you have selected a particular cloud platform, different parameters are going to get affected, right? You can't be changing on an enterprise level, you can't be changing technologies or people who are skilled, right? You can't change the skill sets. Processes you can't change, right? Processes are defined then.
I'll just stop you there, right? Assume that you've gone in. It's like a marriage, right? Like, do you want to continue the marriage or do you want to say, I'm done?
I think it is hard to say, but then at the end of the day, if the ROI is on risk, certainly I'll have to take a decision, right?
Good, thank you. So next question is to Shobhana. As a consumer, how do you evaluate different platforms? Okay, how do they work, interconnect, and how do they break? And at what point of time would you do this evaluation?
Right, so today we have different types of platforms that are evaluated. For example, you have an IS or a PS or a SaaS or others. Now, if you look at the parameters on which you should evaluate, the first and foremost is look at the data center parameters. So here is the data center, what kind of certifications does the data center have, what kind of partner ecosystem does the data center have, what kind of licenses and certifications. When it comes to applications, one has to be very sure that the certain applications are certified on that specific cloud that we are talking about. So the other part is of course on audits and security. Like I said, a partner ecosystem, because finally the OEMs are going to be at the back end and the partners are going to be at the forefront of the discussions. So it's extremely important to have the partner who's going to give you the right support in the journey. So I think these are the few top 3-4 parameters that I would say are important.
Sure, thank you. So Shailesh, do you agree with this? As a provider, do you think that at the very start of it, right, is it a sales pitch or is it more like a partnership to achieve some of this?
Speaking from a vendor perspective,
From a provider.
Well, parameters which Shobhana mentioned, I think I tend to agree with all of them. Very important to not just listen to the sales pitches, but also embed many of these aspects contractually. And given the topic of this discussion is around vendor lock-in, ensure that the partner or the hyperscaler is there with you throughout the journey. You have the flexibility, not just in terms of the continuous innovations, but also commitments in terms of price validations as you move forward, that the relationship is smooth along the way. And in a situation where there is a parting of ways, there needs to be adequate commitment from the partner as well, which has to be locked in terms of support, which should be provided to you as a customer, so that some of these aspects are sort of taken care of. And I think the vendor ecosystem part is extremely valid, very important to have a network of partners and ecosystem which really moves along the way and ensures that the promises that have been delivered on cloud are achieved and not just there on paper or in form of commitments.
I think I've seen that in many times, but I do agree with you and concur. So I'll go on to Shobhana. If we have to look at same aspect, if you have two clouds, sorry Sukanya, if you have two clouds, different clouds, and you have to evaluate the same parameters, both are forthcoming and say that we'll do all of this for you. How do you choose one against other?
So basically, for us, what is extremely important is transparency from the cloud vendor. Right? We want to understand transparency not only in terms of costs, but also in terms of the exit strategy, in terms of the migration paths that they will provide us. We also would like to understand what is their roadmap ahead of them, right? That's very important for us to assess the various vendors before we make a conscious choice. But it's not very often, to answer your earlier question also, Moin, it's not very often that companies get to choose multiple vendors, right? Once you have an enterprise agreement, you are pretty much locked in, and vendor lock-in is real. Right? And that's why it's extremely important for us to actually be very careful when we start off with this.
So another question again back to you, right? In case you have come across a situation where you have gone with a vendor and you want to avoid a vendor lock-in, or you want to circumvent vendor lock-in, right? So what have you done?
Okay, so I come from the technology background, right? So I could give you three different things that we have done primarily to circumvent vendor lock-in to some extent. So the first thing that we try to do is to have an abstraction layer created on top of the various providers. So we have a cloud center of excellence which kind of spits out the different products, like standard certified products. If you are an end user, what you could basically do is from anywhere from your DevOps pipeline, you can actually call, as long as you have the subscription with different vendors, you could directly call these Terraform scripts basically to deploy your infrastructure before you deploy your code on that. So that abstraction layer helps us a little bit to not get locked into the vendors. The second thing that we do, primarily, and this is a common concern, right? Not just about cloud, but where we use a lot of SaaS solutions, we have a lot of on-prem, homegrown solutions. We also have cloud-native solutions. But then there is data that is created in one part, which is consumed in another part, and analytics is generated in a third part. So how do you even connect these things, right? So what we do very consciously is to develop a logical data model and an analytical data model. So in the previous panels also they spoke about data governance, right? Data ontology is an extremely important topic that we take care of very cautiously. And the third and the last thing, this is more a principle. We try not to migrate solutions directly to cloud, but to actually modernize them, right? As you know, containerize them, use 12-factor app development methodologies. So make sure security is shifted left, and these auxiliary concerns are centrally handled, like role-based access controls, data security, privacy. Make sure these are taken care at a central location, so that the migration path is easier for the developer.
Thank you. So, Avadhut, your point of view coming from a different industry.
Okay, vendor locking has always been one of the pain areas. But it is more, as I mentioned, cloud is a strategy, cloud is not an action. Now, many a time earlier, few years before, we always have lift and shift kind of thought, and many of us have suffered. We never thought about what is core. Is an application as a core or data as a core? But now we are getting matured over it. With this as a current state, you know, if we were reactive to lift and shift approach, can we think about this, keep the same thought, but do it in a newer technology? And as she mentioned about containerizing the things, modernizing the app. If you look at that as an option, you going on to a multi-cloud or even getting into a single cloud where you put all the eggs into one basket, you can still be portable. That's one area you look at it. Second, going beyond the strategy, what is core now? Core is a data for us. Of course, you also mentioned about getting an extraction layer. but portability of data needs to be thought of as a step one today, because you want to derive the insights, derive the values, derive the new models today. Because without data, I don't think we are going to progress well. Applications is just as remain as a means to collect the data, but it is not the mean to really monetize or derive the benefit. Now, while you are taking a decision, sometimes it's also important, and we do this as part of our approach, is have a cross-functional team as a part of your cloud approach. Sometimes we may think that we are technologically sound, we understand the nuances, but you also involve your risk team and other who have a fairly different perspective and dimension to see about the cloud. And it's very, very important, and they come out with some dimension which probably it flows through the crack. We have been benefited, so that's one, as a team structure you can look at it. Have a proper, I would say, the contract. They cannot be ruled out or relook at it in a different way, the coverage. And these are few points, of course, other points she has covered it.
Thank you. So from the consumer or the people who are consuming multi-cloud, right? So definitely one word which if I have to summarize is cloud center of excellence, wherein you have a team which is a tri-party, which is a customer, it could be ASI and hyperscaler, and look at it. So let's look at Mr. Shailesh. What are you doing from the provider side? What are you innovating? I know there are a lot of effort which is being spent by all of them to ensure and buy that insurance package so that you don't get into it. But the thought which goes into every CXO mind is, hey, how can I not do this? When I go to a hyperscaler or a provider, right? How can they ensure that I don't get into this problem so that they can actually spend their dollars or rupees into what is really required? So what do you think providers are doing?
So what we talk to our customers when it comes to vendor lock-in situations or avoiding these situations, are essentially around three areas. A, from a technology perspective, and in some of the areas that folks here in this discussion have already called out in terms of making your applications portable on open platforms, and we at Lenovo, we have a cloud platform which is completely based on open stack, which makes it extremely less stressful for customers to move from one provider to another. We also encourage customers to use Kubernetes or K8 as the application platform. We also look at customers from the applications environment and see what are the commonalities between the various applications in terms of architectures, what are the dependencies, and that's something which we look at so that because those are areas, especially when you have legacy applications, moving from one hyperscaler to another becomes extremely challenging at times. So these are some of the sort of areas that we look at. We also have, from a multi-cloud management perspective, at times manageability becomes a challenge, and we have multi-cloud platform, multi-cloud management platforms as well, which help customers manage environments without getting into too much complexity in a cost-effective way. So there are solutions available to minimize the complexity involved. Also, exit strategy, and one of the members on this panel also spoke about having the right exit strategy at the start of engagement is very important, and a holistic exit strategy, technically, commercially, contractually, to be able to identify that at any stage of this engagement, if we have to move out, what are the implications, cost contractually, and from a serviceability standpoint as well. So we encourage customers to look at those plans upfront. Also, from a contract perspective, look at ensuring that those commitments are made by the vendor upfront. And of course, from a resource standpoint, very important for customers to not just look at building all those capabilities internally, but to have an ecosystem of partners who are trained on multiple hyperscalers to be able to provide that cover in a situation where they have to move out of a hyperscaler to another. So looking at these three aspects again, be it the technology, the contracting or the commercial aspects, and the resource management, gives a fairly good cover against a vendor-lock situation.
Thank you. I think so. We have covered from both ends. One last set of questions in interest of not being between the dinner and you folks is compliance, right? Like, how does compliance play a role in vendor locking? Avadhut?
Compliance, it has a different perspective and more industry specific. And there are different thoughts to it. When, let's say, we look at the pharma dimension of it, where we have seen US FDA regulators they're talking about. So, in the eyes of the pharma regulatory people, the cloud, they look at the cloud as in the equal eyes and ears, the way they look at it, contract manufacturing, contract labs. So that's a thought process they have it. Now, why they think like that could be in the absence of them around, do we really adhere to the compliance or not, is the test of it. And many a time in the cloud, SOP adherence is not there or the process adherence is not there. So compliance varies from industry vertical to one to others. There are some industries do not even need that. So now, if you look at the two axes, compliance axis and the security axis, most of the cloud, you would find them maybe near to 10 out of 10, possibly on the security front. But we don't have such kind of ratings when it comes to compliance today. And I think I will urge most of the providers to come out with that kind of scale. So that will draw the confidence. It is just not giving that we are compliance ready, we can give this kind of service, or we can be a shadow resources for you, but the numbers doesn't speak so today. Even if you see the numbers, nobody will tell, maybe 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10, at the most maybe 7. Nobody will give you quantitative figure, and that is really becoming a laggard. One of the reason why not the core is getting shifted to cloud, or very, very critical to the business. So when it compliance, the other name for compliance for business could be a straight risk. Am I putting a business at risk by going ahead when I am not having the confidence of the service provider or the cloud? So these questions will keep wandering into the mind, whether it is tomorrow we may talk about data protection law as a compliance, it could be. And as long as it addresses and takes the ownership, not only addressing the technology, but it means compliance means ownership, compliance means risk mitigation. It means different to different regulators, contextually how each service provider takes care. I think once we hear that very confidently, we being just, and then the people who, like any of us, we are today a follower, we wait for big brothers to move, take a step, and we follow. If we have a reverse confidence coming from the cloud provider, I think the followers will become the lead.
Thank you. Thanks, Avadhut. A good perspective from your end. And I know we are almost there. Sukanya, you come from insurance, right? So what's your thought on that?
Compliance is extremely critical for us, and that's the reason why we have a governance, a centralized governance team, which actually looks at and rolls out, supports in rolling out those certified products, which are the only ones that you can consume as an organization. Because you can't just go up any system that you want, not in production. I spoke about destroying things, but that's more in the text. It's the most critical thing, and regulators are also actually growing. As we see today, from what they were a few years ago, regulators are also adapting, but the pace at which regulators adapt is much slower than the pace at which technology is growing. And so sometimes it's extremely important for us to be patient and take them along as we progress on this cloud journey.
Sure. And last but not the least, Shailesh, from a provider perspective.
Well, I think the two of them, most of it is covered, and as we move forward, I think there will be a lot of innovations and effort going in from the service providers in terms of specific industry related compliances and how they are adhering to it, not just in terms of localized data centers, but also in terms of processes and the security aspects and so on and so forth. So I think those are all aspects which increasingly will find a way in service providers' research and how they deliver the cloud services to customers.
Thank you. So audience, you heard it all. Yeah, vendor lock-in can be real. Okay, we don't want to say that it's not. It is. But if you really look at based on the panel discussion, right? There are ways. First and foremost, you need to have an entry strategy. You need to have a well thought of strategy right from the inception till the exit. You need to look at interoperability. You need to look at open platforms. And more importantly, it would be good if you can have something like a cloud center of excellence where someone can continuously think about some of this and continuously look at it. And yes, in case you get into a mode wherein there is an issue and you have to move, definitely there are ways and it could be done. So with this, thanks for all your time. I hope most of your questions which you might have had, this panel would have answered it, and thanks. And I think so we are almost on the time, so on behalf of the entire panel, thank you very much and good evening.